Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to try out Bazic watercolors. Bazic is a brand I grew up around because they were the most popular brand to buy for school supplies. Also, it was and still is a very popular brand in the 99-cent store. Well, in NYC anyways. I don't really know if they're really an exclusive to the 99-cent store, but I have seen this brand in my local 99-cent store for years now. 22 plus years now, to be a little bit more accurate. I remember in middle school telling my mom specifically to buy me the wood pencils by the Bazic brand only. Bazic used to just be wood pencils, notebooks, spiral notebooks, and erasers. At least that's all I found at the 99-cent store when I checked for that brand. Recently they have upgraded in the art section. They expanded to watercolors and oil pastels, and a few other stuff that are pretty similar, both for kids and for beginning artists. So I snatched up a few new things that I saw, which one of them was this watercolor set, the 16 cake watercolor set that comes with a brush. It was only about $2 each supply, as you can see with the sticker that was on the plastic when I unwrapped it. I was a bit nervous when I've noticed that there was these little pieces of hair hanging around the case randomly. When it comes to cheap art supplies, they tend to come with the world's cheapest brush for some reason, and they're basically unusable. To my surprise though, the brush was not as bad as I thought it was. The bristles were soft and felt like real hair, not synthetic. Well, judging from the label, they don't really describe what the brush is made of. I'm assuming it's real hair from what it seems. The only thing, the brush does lack shape and has a few loose strands, but it does look good and does feel soft. The set is just like a classic cheap plastic container with 16 round cakes. I tested the cake to see how chalky they were. They were not too chalky, but the colors did transfer to my finger pretty easily, so be prepared for colors rubbing off onto your work or onto your fingers or the palms of your hands. Now, when testing the watercolors, I used my Fabriano hot press watercolor paper. It is a very nice watercolor paper, so it should give the watercolors a pretty good chance. I did not have my water bottle spray. I have no idea where that went, but I'll find it eventually in some random time. So I had to saturate the brush with water and make sure to stir up the water on the cakes to get the pigment going. The colors turned out pretty bright, saturated, and are very pigmented. So it was surprising because I have always low expectation for cheap watercolors, but I think my expectations are going a little higher with these. I did have to trim the brush a little bit because of some stray hairs that kept sticking out while I was painting. This brush is really not accurate as it is because of its lack of shape. Also, paint is just going to fly everywhere since I soaked the cakes a tiny bit too much. This is why I prefer using my spray bottle, so I would avoid basically drowning my paints and painting my watercolor container. When done, I did some tests like blending, mixing, feathering, etc. And I was completely mesmerized by the feathering effect because it was so beautiful and satisfying. I only see those good feathering effects in those art satisfying videos, but in person it's like, wow. I had to show you this, even though my camera does suck, but you could still see the cool effect when it starts feathering out. I tried my best, okay? I'm working on upgrading to a camera eventually. Right now I'm currently using my phone. I did leave the colors to dry overnight to see how they look after about 24 hours. Surprisingly, they were still extremely pigmented and bright. Usually cheap watercolors tend to go down looking pigmented until they dry. The color would just fade away and become dull. With the Bazic watercolors, however, they made me look forward to testing them out with a real artwork piece. They dry with a little bit of white specks, which could be just the paper, so it makes it look chalky. But we will see as I'll continue the piece. I did do a rub test on the colors to see if they were just like their cake forms, and they did rub off a bit, well, a lot. When it came to the blue one especially, it rubbed off a lot. So you'll have to seal these paints in if you want to avoid it rubbing on other pages or just plain rubbing off. This was something that I was really worried about when thinking about the artwork. The piece I wanted to do requires a lot of black, which is one of the colors that rubbed off the most. So I'll have to tread carefully when it comes down to it. First things first, I do apologize for my camera swaying, or as I call it, my drunk camera, but I can't help it because it's attached to my table and for some reason it's really shaky. Have no idea why. I'm trying to find an alternative way to hang it somewhere close by. We will see in the future once I start upgrading to a better camera that will get better stable footage. But for now, let's suffer with the drunk camera. It's not that bad, maybe, unless you have motion sickness, I guess. Sorry. Now that I'm done drooling over the beautiful feathering effect, I got to drawing. I was going to use watercolor paper, but I wanted to test it out in a sketchbook and also wanted to draw in my sketchbook more. Today's subject is gonna be my special boy, Kirishima from My Hero Academia. He's my favorite character. Let me know what favorite character is yours in My Hero Academia, down in the comments below. Of course, I started off with the main sketch, then I cleaned it up. I'm still a bit stiff when it comes to traditional art, but it was still good. It felt therapeutic and satisfying to draw traditionally again. However, coloring is still not my strong suit. I got extremely nervous, especially when it comes to skin. It is the most nerve-wracking thing to color for me. I don't want the skin to be too light or it will be non-existent, but if I go too dark, it's hard coming back from that with watercolor. Then getting the right tone is another pain. Each race skin tone has different range of colors and darknesses. Some skin tones are more yellow than others, or more red, or even more blue. Then there are even darker versions. Skin tones are so complex to me, but it's exciting to see the different ranges and how unique each tone could be. When it comes to the other stuff, I was not much afraid because it's clothes and being slightly off won't hurt too much, like skin tones. I did mess up the skin at some point by making it too dark and yellow, which made him look sickly or just an orc from like a Dungeons and Dragons game. I was ready to give up because I freaked out trying to save it. However, I just stepped away and came back to it the next day. I brought out my trusty Prismacolor pencils and I managed to alter the colors and finish up the artwork. I was afraid I was not gonna do Kirishima justice, but by some miracle, I saved it in the end and I actually like it. Overall, I really like the watercolor for sketchbook drawings or those quick doodles. As for commission work or professional setting, I wouldn't recommend it. The paint rubbed and smeared all over the work, even after a few days of drying, and I doubt the colors will last long term. Maybe I should start rating these. I guess a rating out of 10, I'll give it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. They're not that bad. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. It felt kind of special because Bazic has been around with me for years now, so it feels kind of good to do a review on them. Catch you in my next video, and remember to be kind, kings and queens. Bye bye.